Hey everybody! I'm sorry I'm a couple minutes late. I had connectivity issues and it wouldn't let me go live, but I think that we're good to go now. I'm just going to fix that light just a little bit there so that that's not shining right on. I have my glass craft mat and sometimes the lights reflect off of there. So I'm just going to give it just a couple minutes for people to come on here. And as always, I'm going to be pulling up this video on my computer so that we can chat and interact with each other. If you have any questions, you can always ask. And it looks like we are good to go. So here's the card we're going to be making today. This has lots of stenciling in the background. Even the striped piece here is stenciled. But I added a touch of Glitz glitter gel to those spooky trees on the side. And then we have my favorite stamp set from the latest release. This is from the Shake Your Bones stamp set. Here it is. It's just so adorable. There's these 4 little kind of dancing skeletons. You can dress them up with a top hat or a bow tie. And then there are some absolutely hilarious sentiments. I thought you might find this card humorous. I can feel it in my bones. It's going to be okay. Break a leg, shake, rattle, and roll, happy Halloween, and bonjour. It's a really cute stamp set, absolutely adorable. I really love this one. We're going to be combining this new stamp set with some previously released Trinity Stamps stencils. So I'm going to use the October Night Sky and the Slimline Stripes stencil. This Slimline Stripes stencil set is one of my standard go-to stencils in my craft room. I love stripes, and I don't tend to use a lot of pattern paper, so I buy some, but I don't buy an excess of it. And I love stencils because it's a way of creating your own pattern paper, like I did in my background here. So let's go ahead and jump right in. This is kind of an odd-sized card. I think it's about 6 inches wide. Yeah, 6 inches wide by almost 4 3/4 inches tall, so it's a little bit of an odd size card. You might have to create your own size envelope, but I think it's really fun anyway. Actually, it should fit in a 5x7. It would just be a little bit small, but it'll work. Okay, let's dive in. I'm going to start by creating the background. So I'll set that card up there so that we can look at that throughout the video. And I have all my things pre-cut, so I just have to find the correct paper to start with. I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch, so A2 size panel. A2 was what I had originally meant to create my card as. It was going to be just this without the stripes. And as I was creating it, I thought that it needed something more. So that's when I went a little bit bigger. So we'll stick that back up there and let's start our stenciling. This is the October Night Sky stencil. It's a 2-piece stencil set, but I love that Trinity Stamps, I don't want to say always because I'm not sure if it's always, but frequently, at the very least, puts the negative pieces in. I'm not going to use the negative pieces for the clouds today. I'm going to just use the one for the moon because I wanted the moon to stand out a little bit, but I wanted the clouds to be kind of gray and spooky and blend in a bit. So I'm going to start with the circle masking piece. I have sprayed some pixie spray on the back of it. I used that when I created my sample card, and it's still a little bit tacky. So there's enough on there for me to do my ink blending. So I'm going to hang this off the top, just eyeballing it, and I'm going to try my best to get it centered. On my sample card, it is not centered, but I truly don't think that you can tell. Hello everybody, I'm so happy for all of you saying hi, hello back. Alrighty, so here's where I'm going to start blending around my background, and I have blending buddies to do this. So the moon is masked off, and what I'm actually going to be doing now is creating the purple sky. You can create any color sky you want, but I thought that a purple sky would be kind of spooky. Let me get those things out of the way. I have shaded lilac. And you can see here that I don't really clean my blending brushes. So I have, I think, a little bit of, it might be seedless preserves on here. So that kind of comes out. You can see how I have that lilac color up there, but then as I keep blending, that Seedless Preserves kind of comes out a little bit. Totally doesn't bother me. It creates fast and easy blending, or dimension, I guess you could say, having those variety of purples in the background. You do want to be careful about fingerprints. I'm holding where the mask is, but as I get ink onto the mask, that ink will be nice and wet and you can pick that up with your fingers. So I'm just going to go around and blend this whole background in. Just in watercolor, you'd call it a flat wash. I'm not sure what you would call it in ink blending, a flat blend, I suppose. Not really doing any shading or anything, just a quick blend. I'm going to grab a cleaning cloth here, and before I remove this, I'm going to wipe off that ink because I don't want inky fingerprints. I'm prone to inky fingerprints. Now I'm going to remove that mask. Oh, and you can see I didn't press down in the corner, so a little bit of ink got up in the corner there, but let's see. You know, I might leave it because I'm going to be putting a cloud right around there anyway. But if you want to fix that, I'll show you a tool that I like to use for fixing. This is a sand eraser. And so what I would do is just kind of go in and just sand it off a little bit. Oh, and see, now I've mussed it up because I didn't let my ink dry. But you can lightly sand that away. So even though I've kind of smudged that color a little bit, it's definitely lighter. It's a good way to fix mistakes. So it's definitely not as bad. Oh, my lights just kind of brightened a little bit. Great. Alrighty, so now we're done with that mask. I'm going to take the regular, moon stencil and line this up right over the top. And I'm going to add some yellow here. But I want to grab some masking tape. And I'm wondering if I should heat set this. Let me heat set this really quickly because masking tape is not going to stick to wet ink. So I want to just make sure that this is kind of dry really quick. So it might be a bit loud. All right, we'll see if that's good enough. I always feel so awkward using a heat tool on camera because it's just loud for you and there's no talking from me because I don't think you could hear me over the tool anyway. So now I'm gonna grab some masking tape because I don't trust myself to not blend over the edge. I'm kind of a messy blender and I don't wanna get I didn't get my panel quite dry enough. Masking tape doesn't stick to wet surfaces, and oxide ink, since it's a pigment ink, is quite wet, but it's going to stick to the stencil, which is really what I need. I'm going to move this up here so that that's more on the stencil. Then I'm going to grab my yellow ink. I think I use Scattered Straw. I'm liking this color for moons because I think it's more of a pale yellow. And I'm just going to blend over. I'm going to try to cover up where I made those mistakes. I very, very rarely throw a piece that I'm working on into the garbage. I always try to cover up mistakes or make the mistakes work in some form or another. So I've kind of dulled that purple back a little bit where it bled into my mask. And then we're even going to go one step further. We're going to put clouds in there too. So I really don't think it's going to be a huge deal. Let's remove that stencil. So there's a little bit that you can see there, but it's really not terrible. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to wipe off my stencil. And then I'm going to go in with my clouds. So I kind of just staggered my clouds a little bit. I'm going to have this guy coming in here. I'm going to use some masking tape. I probably could have conserved that masking tape that I used before. I'll save this masking tape. I don't really like to waste things. But now we're just going to create those clouds. And I'm going to... I was going to go daring and just try to be careful on the edge here, but once again, I don't trust myself to be careful. So now I'm going to grab some, this is Hickory Smoke Distress Oxiding, and I'm just going to blend right over the moon and that purple background. And the moon is a lighter color, obviously, than the background. So you're going to see this a little bit more in front of the moon. But I think in real life you see clouds a little bit more in front of the moon when it's dark outside. Okay, so there's one cloud. Let's set that to the side so that doesn't get dirty. I'm going to wipe this off real quick. And then we'll line up our next cloud. Again, I just kind of stagger them. So this one, I'm going to come having it from the corner here, but it's not going to be quite like my original card because I'm going to try to cover up my mistake, that ink blended mistake. And we'll put this piece here. And then just ink blending some more. I like this stencil because even though it's a multi-step stencil, I think it comes together really quickly. So again, I always wipe my tape and my stencil in between inking so I don't have anything transferring. Let's put this guy up at the top here. And I might not need tape for him. Let's be brave. There's that one. And then I have one more coming across the bottom, and that's on the second stencil. So I'll grab that one and kind of put that right about here. And I might be brave with him too. And just try to avoid those trees. And I'm holding down my stencil because there's nothing, I don't have any masking tape or anything holding this on. So I'm just being very careful to hold my stencil in place. There we go. There's the start of our spooky background. And I covered up most of those mistakes. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let me clean off my stencils. Throw this tape away. And then we're going to create that spooky ground. And that was something that in my original card was an afterthought. I didn't originally have this black on the bottom here, but as I was putting my card together, I realized that I needed some kind of grounding for the skeletons because it looked like they were just floating in this spooky scene. So we're going to create this ground. And I'm just going to come up with black ink and just create a really easy ground. Nothing, no masking, just kind of going dark at the bottom and then letting that blend into that purple. And if you wanted to, you could come back with your purple blender brush and blend that out, but I'm gonna leave that like that. Now I wanna do the bats, but I'm gonna dry this panel very quickly because I don't want it to blend in, I want it to layer on top. Alrighty, so that's really quick, just quick and easy heat setting there. I'm gonna line up my bats, no real, I don't know, care to line them up in any particular way. But since I want these to be super, super black, I am going to use, if I could find it, my Blackout Hybrid Detail ink. This is an ink that I usually use for stamping. In fact, I did use it for stamping for my skeletons. But this ink is a little bit darker than that black soot oxide ink. So I like it for really dark stamping and blending. Put that lid back on before any disasters happen. Then I'm gonna remove that stencil, and you can see how much darker that black is from the black on the ground. I'm gonna wipe off that ink. And we are almost done with the stenciling, but there is one more thing that I need to do, and of course it's those spooky trees. I'm gonna put away my blending brushes so that they aren't in the way. And we're gonna do some Glitz glitter gel through those trees. You can absolutely add black ink, and in fact, if you were gonna do the black ink, I would probably use the Blackout detail ink from Ink on 3, just to make those darker. I'm going to spray the back of this with Pixie spray because those trees are kind of detailed. And anything that's detailed, I like to really hold down my stencil. So I have my Pixie spray, and I'm just gonna give that just a quick spritz. You don't need a lot, just a quick spritz. And then I'll let that kind of hang out for a hot second because you don't want to use Pixie spray when it's wet. That's when it's going to really, really stick to your card and you might get some residue left behind. So I let mine sit for about a minute, kind of wave it around in the air, make it dry. Then I'm gonna line up these trees. I want them to go all the way to the bottom of my scene. So I'm going to make sure that they're hanging off the bottom a little bit, as well as off the sides a little bit. So see how they're hanging off the sides and they're hanging off the bottom just a little bit. Now to make sure that this is really pressed onto my cardstock, I'm going to grab my brayer. Doesn't matter what brayer you have, this is just a fancy trick that I like to use to really make sure that stencil is making good contact with the cardstock. And now I have everything so nice and organized when I start a live video, and then by the middle to end of the live video, things are just strewn about. I have black Glitz glitter gel. I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna try to scoop some out with this, but I might, oh nope, I can get in there. Alrighty, I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna start on the left and work my way right. And I'm just gonna spread this over the trees. Down here in the open areas of the trunk is where you want to be careful to make sure that you have good coverage and that you're not scraping too hard, because you want to make sure that you have an even layer, but you don't want to scrape so hard that you actually pull up the Glitz glitter gel. So I'm coming again to this tree down here, making sure that, like here, I can see I scraped a little bit too hard there. So I'm gonna add some more right on that edge. It's hard sometimes when there's open edges. So you just have to be gentle, which is something that I am not as a crafter. I have never been described as a gentle crafter. I ink blend with a heavy hand, I stamp with a heavy hand. So gentle is your friend. And you wanna be sure, if you haven't masked off those bats in the middle, either mask them off or just be careful of them. I'm going to peel off that stencil very carefully, working from one edge. So I'm working from the top left down to the bottom left, and then I'm going to come over to the top right and kind of pull, or I guess bottom right came off first, pull up to the top right. Let's set that to the side, and I will pop this up close to camera. Before I do, I'm going to, got a little bit extra on there, so I'm going to come in and just fix that just a little bit with the edge of my stencil pal there. But there's our spooky trees. Let's come close and see if you can capture that glitter. There we go, look at that. It's just a fun touch to add. Again, you definitely don't have to if you are short on time, or if you are more in favor of making quick cards. I have a little bit of extra there. I'm just going to scrape off with my fingernail ever so carefully. Perhaps not. There we go. If you're short on time, go ahead and do just the regular ink blending. But this is going to dry quickly, and it's something that I think adds a little bit of extra something fun. I will set that to the side. And now I'm just going to clean up, and you're going to see how quick and easy this is too. Again, I don't like to waste things, so I'm going to bring my stencil over and scrape as much as I can, because like I said, I was very gentle and generous with the Glitz glitter gel. So I'm going to scrape the extra off. Here's a tip for any wet medium that you're using, any kind of paste. Always wipe the rim of your paste, because that gets off all, see how there was all that on the rim? That's going to prevent a tight seal, and you want a tight seal so that that doesn't dry out. Then I'm going to clean my tools. Including my work surface. And I'm going to clean my stencil really quickly, and I'll show you a quick stencil hack for cleaning. I just have to get to my cleaner. So in here I have Windex, and you can see that it's used because it's not that bright blue, it's kind of a cloudy blue. But I will use this Windex until it's so full of stuff that it doesn't clean anymore. So I just have this in a Ziploc gallon baggie, and then I'm just going to gently swish that stencil back and forth. Clean that off. You can use this for ink. So if you have a stubborn ink on your stencil, stencils are like stamps. They're going to stain, but if you want to get as much off as you possibly can, I do recommend this. So this is just your plain old Windex in a gallon bag. I'm going to move that out of the way so I don't ruin that. I'm just going to lay out my microfiber cloth that I use for cleaning my stamps, and then I'll dry this off. This trick is particularly useful for me because I don't have a designated craft area, so my bathroom isn't super close to my craft room. So I'm just going to use this as a quick and easy cleaning trick. And then I just wipe this off. I go with the grain of the stencil. So the trees are cut kind of downwards. So I'm going to make sure that I'm wiping downwards so that I don't bend any of those little pieces. Because again, I have a heavy hand and I have ruined many a stencil wiping them off with a baby wipe. But there we go. Nice and clean. And I can put that away in its little pocket. I think I have all the little pieces. It wouldn't be the first time I've missed a little piece and found one later on while cleaning up. But we'll tuck that away. And while that Glitz glitter gel is drying, we're going to work on this bonus part of the card. The one that I created as kind of an extra little piece. I'm going to grab the Trinity Stamps Slim Line Stripes stencil. This is a 2-pack, so you could do horizontal stripes if you want. I tend to like vertical because I think oh my goodness. I can't think of the word now, diagonal, because I think that they are more forgiving. If you don't get them lined up quite straight, that's okay. Like if you wanted to go this way, a more acute angle, that's great. I'm going to line it up like this, but I am going to spray the back with Pixie Spray. Again, because this is a detailed stencil, and there's lots of little pieces that like to move around, I want to be sure that I have crisp ink blending. And when I spray my Pixie Spray on this one, you're going to see me kind of go with the grain of the stencil. I feel like that's always the key, is to go with the grain. That way I can be sure that I'm getting that adhesive, that temporary adhesive, onto each one of those little stripes. Again, give that a second to dry. Oh, hello, Nicole. Good luck, Viv. I hope that she does well on her driving test. Alrighty, let's tack this on here. There we go. And again, I'm going to use my brayer. Well, that's not it. I grabbed my spray bottle. That won't work. And I'm going to make sure that all the parts of that stencil are making contact with that cardstock. Now, I want to have super dark and crisp ink blending. So I'm again going to be ink blending with my Blackout Hybrid Detail ink and my blending buddy. And you're going to see me go, again, with the grain of the stencil. And I may not go all the way towards the center because, as you can see, the main portion of the card is going to take up most of this background. So I really just need the edges. But when you're blending, I typically at least tend to go in circles unless I am blending a striped background. And in that case, I go, like I said, with the grain of the stencil. So you see me going back and forth here in a diagonal motion. Even though that pixie spray is holding on and I know it's going to hold tight, I don't want to take the chance of my heavy hand moving one of those little stripes. However, since this is such an easy pattern, if you do get any bleeding, you can take a white gel pen and fix that. Just like if you would if you colored outside the line with a Copic marker or something. All right, let's get lids back on the things that could cause disaster. I'm gonna grab my cloth and give this a quick wipe. Well, perhaps it doesn't want me to wipe it, so we'll pull it off and stencil reveal instead. There you go. I don't think I have any errors, but like I said, if you had if your stencil slipped and let's say you had a little black smudge, I would just take a gel pen and fix that right up. That's easy to do. I'm going to clean this stencil. I don't want to make you watch me pull out my Windex and everything once again, so I'm just going to clean this simply, and then I will clean this better off camera. Nobody wants to sit and watch me clean my stencils. So there's a quick wipe, and then we'll put that to the side to be fully cleaned later. And now we're going to just start putting our card together. So I have cut a card base, and it looks like it's a bit bigger than what it should be, so I'm going to grab my scissors. I'm going to start by adhering my stencil piece, my striped stencil piece I should say, since they're both technically stencil pieces. And it is just, I cut my card base just a bit bigger. It's no problem at all. I'll just trim that off. You can use your paper trimmer if you want, but I often just find it just as easy to go scissors and trim this up. This is what I do too, because I hate creating card bases. It is my least favorite part of card making. So I'll take one day, a month, maybe 2 days if I need it, and I will just create 100 card bases. And I'll sit there and I'll cut and I'll score and I'll fold. And if I happen to make a square card, all I do then is just cut off the bottom of my regular A2 size card. Alrighty, here's my background. This Glitz glitter gel is still a tad wet, so I'm going to hit that with my heat gun because I don't want to mess that up. Alright, well that is technically not an approved trick. It is something that I do because I am very impatient in my craft room. And I see here that I have a couple little spots of Glitz glitter gel that I'm just going to scrape off with my fingernail. Once this is dry, since it's just glitter in gel, if you have just a tiny dot, you can scrape it off. You wouldn't be able to scrape off the whole tree without ruining your background, but a single dot, you sure can. And I think that's just left from the first time that I did the stenciling. It looks like I still had some stuck on my stencil. Von Marie, the most you make is 10 at a time. Oh, no, no. If I'm going to do it, I sit and I do it because I hate making them. And I make a lot of cards each month, so I do it all. All right, I'm going to pop out this background on foam, and I'm going to use a piece of fun foam because that's what I have handy. Looks like that'll fit. Mine is adhesive backed on one side. So I'm going to add that on. And then pop this into the center of that diagonal striped piece. Let's make sure that that's straight. That looks pretty good. Alrighty, so I have already stamped and cut out my 2 little dancing skeletons and my sentiment from the Shake Your Bones stamp set. And I use the coordinating dies. There's coordinating dies for every piece in this stamp set. That includes the sentiments. Look at this. I've picked my favorite. I thought you would find this card humorous. My son is 5 and I went to school for forensic science, so I took 1 course in anthropology, and currently my son is obsessed with the human skeleton. And so we have been learning the bones of the body. And so this is going to be a card for him, and he'll find that funny because he thinks it's hilarious that the bone in your arm is the humerus, and it's humorous to him. So, but look at that cute little sentiment all cut out. I think it's super, super cute. So I'm going to start just laying this out. I know I have my sample right there, and that's kind of what I'm going to go by, but this is what I do as I create. I knew that I wanted to have each of them wearing the top hat and wearing their cute little bow ties. So I'm going to glue those onto each one. And of course, because these are separate pieces, you don't have to dress them up with the bow ties and the top hats, or the bowler hat, I guess it is. I suppose it's not really a top hat, but maybe it is. I am not a hat connoisseur, so could be, might not be. And I'll stick this guy's hat on him. I think these guys would be so cute popped up on action wobblers. That might be something that I have to do. So here's where you can see, this is why I added this ink blending to the bottom to create the ground, because otherwise they were just hanging out in the middle of a purple background, and it looked weird. I'm gonna go ahead and pop these up with foam tape, which is probably the most tedious part of this card. All in all, this came together quickly. The only thing I prepped ahead of time, oh no, am I frozen? Things look okay on my phone, but not on my computer. So, here's to hoping that I come back. If anybody can see me or hear me, let me know if I'm frozen. If I am frozen, this card will be up on... Oh, not frozen. Okay, great. So it's just my computer. Alrighty, good then. I can see comments. Doesn't matter if the video's frozen. I'm going to just add thin little strips of foam tape. That's really all you need for these guys. And I have a bad habit of going overboard with tape. So I won't make you watch me put on the amount of tape that I normally would. We'll just hit the highlights, their hands, their legs, and their little bodies. Because otherwise we'd be here all day. I seriously considered not even putting them up on foam tape because I am a slow foam taper, and like I said, I go overboard. But I wanted to, and I think the dimension makes this card just a little bit better. Dimension always makes cards better, I think. So we'll just add some to his legs, and then the foam tapery will be done. Okay, just making sure I can't see any. I'm going to remove the backers. And then we'll add these guys onto the card, and that'll be it. I hope that you guys enjoyed The thin foam tape is a game changer. I seriously love it. You can cut foam tape strips, but for those of you who don't know me personally, I've had eye surgery on both of my eyes in the last year, and I may have to go back for another one. And so cutting is sometimes dangerous for me because I quite literally can't see where my fingers are in relation to the scissors. So the thin foam tape strips sometimes have saved a finger or two for me. So there we go. There's the card we made in, you know, like 40 minutes. And again, all I did to prep was just to stamp and die cut these little guys, and that was just to save a couple of minutes for you guys so you didn't have to watch me stamp and die cut. But this card can easily come together in about 45 minutes, and it's got some great shine. It has dimension from foam tape, it's got dimension from the ink blending, it has texture from the Glitz glitter gel. So I think it's a really cute card, and it's quite a humorous card too. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have questions, this video will be reposted or uploaded to YouTube, so feel free to ask questions over there if you have any, and I will see you guys again really soon. Bye, you guys.